this morning. Welcome to the 13th day in the month of August 2025. Welcome to Press Drive right here on I-FLIER 103.3 FM IBADAN. And like I said earlier, it's another day to take you through headlines making rounds in the national dailies this morning. I have the Punch and the Nation newspapers. I'll start with the headlines before we move to details of the stories we want to look at this morning. Joining me for analysis is Honorable Femi Adebisi. When it's time you get to hear his voice. We are live on Facebook. You can watch us live on our Facebook page at I-FLIER 103.3 FM live. At I-FLIER 103.3 FM live. Like, share, follow us, and do drop a comment on our Facebook page if you want to react to the stories this morning. Also, you can be a part of the conversation on Press Drive. You can call the studio lines, which I'll open when it's time. Once again, good morning and welcome to Press Drive on I-FLIER 103.3 FM IBADAN. I'll start with the headlines of the Punch newspaper this morning. On the Punch newspaper this morning, health sector crisis persists despite 5.4 trillion naira World Bank loans. Health sector crisis persists despite 5.4 trillion naira World Bank loans. Federal government drops 60 billion naira fraud charges against ex-AMCON MD. FG drops 60 billion naira fraud charges against ex-AMCON MD. EFCC targeting David Mark after Tambuwa and Ihedioha, says ADC. EFCC targeting David Mark after Tambuwa Ihedioha, says ADC. No plan to probe ex-governor Emmanuel, says Akwa Ibom Assembly. No, my support for Tinubu rooted in 22-year friendship, says Soludo. Still on the Punch newspaper this morning, going through some of its headlines. Nigerian Correctional Service laments doctors' shortage to treat 8,244 mentally ill inmates. Nigerian Correctional Service laments doctors' shortage to treat 8,244 mentally ill inmates. Citizens' collaboration needed to defeat insurgency, says Chief of Army Staff. Citizens' collaboration needed to defeat insurgency, says Chief of Army Staff. Still on insecurity, Boko Haram scare, Borno villagers flee, sleep on Cameroon streets and schools. Boko Haram scare, Borno villagers flee, sleep on Cameroon streets and in schools. Away from that, ignore ADC propaganda. APC urges Imo supporters. Ignore ADC propaganda. APC urges Imo supporters. In education, parents kick as Ebon University hikes fees. Parents kick as Ebon University hikes fees. Don dumps ASU. Don dumps ASU, says union runs like court. Don dumps ASU, says union runs like court. Away from that, activists tackle NYSC for withholding Tinubu critics certificate. Activists tackle NYSC for withholding Tinubu critics certificate. Away from that, NBA, others condemn Ibom Air over female passengers assault. NBA, others condemn Ibom Air over female passengers assault. Save public procurement from unqualified hands, Sipsman tells or urges President Tinubu. Save public procurement from unqualified hands, Sipsman urges President Tinubu. Away from that, Oyo distributes 18,000 tablets to teachers. Oyo distributes 18,000 tablets to teachers. let's go through the last set of headlines on the Punch newspaper, and then we'll move to the Nation newspaper. Court orders federal government to close case in Dasuki's decade-old trial. Court orders federal government to close case in Dasuki's decade-old trial. EFCC grants Tambuwal bail, withholds passport. EFCC grants Tambuwal bail, withholds passport. Kebbi Poly decries low enrollment, target 2,000 students. Kebbi Poly decries low enrollment, target 2,000 students. And finally, on the Punch newspaper this morning, IG upgrades police legal section to directorate. IG upgrades police legal section to directorate. Now to the Nation newspaper this morning. Amechi, how Fayemi and I began opposition coalition. How Fayemi and I began opposition coalition, says Amechi. Why I'm supporting Tinubu by Soludo. Why I'm supporting Tinubu by Soludo. IG orders probe of Kwamwan's Abuja airport infraction. IG orders probe of Kwamwan's Abuja airport infraction. EFCC hits back at ADC, others over unprovoked attack. 176 estates, diasporan subscribers demand refund from developers. Diasporan subscribers demand refund from developers. Still on the Nation newspaper this morning, INEC begins continuous voter registration nationwide Monday. INEC begins continuous voter registration nationwide Monday. Court bars Ogun government from demolishing Daniel's residence and hotel. Court bars Ogun government from demolishing Daniel's residence and hotel. Commission how corrupt public officers use Conduct Bureau. Commission how corrupt public officers use Conduct Bureau. Amechi in pursuit of desperate ambition. Amechi in pursuit of desperate ambition. We're unleashing Nigeria's innovative spirit, says Shetima. We're unleashing Nigeria's innovative spirit, says Shetima. Going through the last set of headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning. Federal government urges partners to invest in youth-led innovations. Federal government urges partners to invest in youth-led innovations. First Lady seeks continued investment in Nigerian youth. First Lady seeks continued investment in Nigerian youth. And finally, on the Nation Force, 1,500 air flight operations conducted, 592 terrorists killed in Borno, says NAF. The Nigerian Air Force says it has conducted more than 1,500 operational flight hours under the air component of Operation Hardin Kai in the last 8 months, killing at least 592 terrorists and destroying 372 enemy assets. The operations, according to the Air Force, involved 798 combat sorties that significantly degraded the capabilities of Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters in the northeast. Now, spokesperson Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame, in a statement on Tuesday, said the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan 35 gunship was expected to further intensify close air support for ground troops in the theater. And of course, it went on to explain some of the achievements that they have made in Borno. Now, let me add this story to it. Boko Haram scare. Borno villagers flee, sleep on Cameroon streets and schools. Hundreds of residents of Kirawa in Borno State, displaced by Boko Haram insurgents, are now taking refuge in Cameroonian villages, have lamented harsh living conditions, saying they spend the day in Nigeria and return to Cameroon at night to sleep in fear of renewed attacks. Speaking with the Punch on Tuesday, the residents explained that since Saturday's attack, which prompted the withdrawal of troops from the community, many have spread across border villages in Cameroon, sleeping on roads, in mosques, and inside classrooms to avoid midnight assault. The district head of Kirawa, Abdurrahman Abubakar, who confirmed the development, called for urgent government action to resettle the community and restore peace to the area. So let's drop these two together. Still in Borno State, Boko Haram scared Borno villagers flee, sleep on.
Who advise them appropriately? Because we've witnessed series of cases whereby they will just go to where they are doing marriages or performing one particular prayer or the other, gone everybody down just like that. So yeah, and I keep saying all this kinetic approach are not sufficient enough to put a halt to insecurity issues in Nigeria. Let's take for example, I think in about 2 weeks ago, I think somewhere in Zamfara, the governor had to meet face to face with part of these people, and of course they released all their captives, and of course there was a truce. So that is what I feel we should go ahead and pursue. But apart from that, there is this northern question about insecurity. Despite all the allocations, all the investments from the south to the north, despite, why do you still have that large number of out of school, that large number of poor people in the world? Because up to about 60% of the people in the north are virtually poor. So why? So we need to answer a whole lot of questions. So now just imagine people in Borno will come to work in Borno, and at night they go to Cameroonian neighbor to go and sleep for the fear of insecurity, and yet we get a government in the country. So I think it is high time, if not very, very urgent, that we should convey a national meeting to discuss the security concerns. And of course, in discussing that, I think it is high time each of the geopolitical zones take their destiny into their hand, so that you don't wait for the center.
Targeting David Mark after Tambuwal and Ihedioha, says ADC. The African Democratic Congress on Tuesday accused the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of singling out opposition figures for politically motivated investigations, alleging that the agency's latest target is its interim national chairman and former Senate President David Mark. In a statement by its acting National Publicity Secretary, Bola Abdullahi, the ADC said the EFCC had embarked on a choreographed media trial against coalition leaders after the detention of former Sokoto State Governor Tambuwal on Monday and the invitation of former Imo State Governor Emeka Ihedioha. And the party has alleged that the crackdown was part of the ruling All Progressives Congress strategy to weaken the opposition coalition ahead of the 2027 general elections. Now, this is not the only story accusing EFCC. Yesterday, Atiku, I read it in the news yesterday that Atiku on his Facebook page accused EFCC that they're actually politically motivated, making arrests because they're politically motivated, and the opposition parties use
that. Yeah, of course, it might. But there is another thing that is suspicious. Given antecedents, what happened? Probably, the government will just look sideways. The moment they align with the center. So which makes the EFCC, which makes mockery of their job. They are not serious. They are not independent at all. And I think they should be detached from the center. They should work independent in Delta. Look at this issue. Look at the case of, in fact, you can keep on mentioning them, including the ex-governor of Kogi State. So, why not pursuing those cases? Now they are now revisiting the case of this man, the former CEO, chief security.
Dasuki.
Yeah, Dasuki now.
Okay.
Yeah, they are now revisiting after how many years?
And the court is ordering the federal government to close case.
Of course, why are they foot dragging? And don't forget that Fayose was one of the beneficiaries of the loot of Dasuki. And that Yoruba will say, visibly, there were evidences that a plane landed and delivered money to Fayose. So, but of course, Fayose is free now. So what happened to to Dasuki? So maybe one way or the other there had been a kind of talk, and of course, I mean Dasuki too will have to be cleared. Maybe it's time to be cleared because he's aligning with the center. That's my suspicion anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Then of course you still have another one recently. There is this guy, the MD of AMCON.
AMCON, yes.
Yes, Justice Rama Oshodi yesterday struck out a 60 billion fraud case against him. And that's Ahmed Kuru. Alongside one particular man, the head of Signal Gov Limited. Yes, the man stole money and delivered to the account of Signal Gov Limited in Heritage Bank, and of course, at the end of the day, the AMCON boss, pleaded not guilty, while the recipient of that particular loot, Sigma Gov, pleaded guilty, and the two of them, they settled for plea bargaining with the government, and of course, they just say, okay, go and just deliver a pantry sum of 6 billion naira, and of course you can go out of 60 billion. So 6 billion was delivered to the government, and then they are going. So now. In fact, so many people will be saying that what is EFCC doing? That is one of the exploits of EFCC. But of course, when it comes to political intervention, what you see is that, of course, they've just watered down their operations. They can only go ahead and start, and pursue the people the government wanted to pursue. And if they pursue, recklessly, the government can say, okay, gentlemen, you can go and sleep somewhere. Maybe go home. If you are not going to do, you are not going to study our body language. So, there is a serious crisis concerning, anti-graft issues in the country. And our creditors and the international community, our friends, in the International Committee of Nations, they are not comfortable with us. And that is why we don't have the effrontery to go and ask for debt forgiveness, like we did in the time of Obasanjo. Otherwise, maybe that would have been our best bet when Tinubu came in. But of course, does he have that kind of tenacity or integrity to go to them and say, okay, please forgive us? Why you have a whole dose? Okay, look at the case of Davido, the new wedding in Miami. So, how will they believe that Nigerians are not super rich? And of course, don't we get money? We get money. What we don't have is wealth. And it's a serious crisis in a country where you cannot link money with wealth creation. It's a serious crisis. It shows that the leadership is in vacuum.
Okay.
Quote now. So there's a problem when it comes to the issue of anti-graft in the country. And that is why you see so many people that are very, very poor because of iniquity in income distribution. What is supposed to be a commonwealth, to be governed and shared, among the federations. You see that a particular, arm of government, a particular arm of government is just, doing as they like and then usurp and do anything. So all of us in the country, we are now at the mercy of the center. So if you don't get the mercy of the center, then you are gone. And that's why you can see governors to the party that brought them into power, like that of Charles Soludo, like what he did. So, a whole lot of things are happening in the country.
We'll have to go on a break now. And I think Peter Obi also shares your sentiment as regards what you mentioned earlier. We'll read that story and we'll react to read that of the reactions of EFCC to the arrest. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
Don't you give up. Don't you give up. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. It is imperative that parents prioritize education for the growth and future of their children by enrolling them to a school that can help develop their capacity and potentials.
I-FLIER provide a serene environment, accommodating reception, well-equipped laboratory for biology, physics and chemistry, fully furnished classrooms, counseling rooms, key library, halls for conferences, institutions, standby generator, mini-mart, among others.
Yes!
I-FLIER International School
can boast of inspiring, captivating curriculum, academic excellence, social amenities and structures, as well as dedicated teachers who are more than ready to train your children academically and morally.
Admission is ongoing. Enroll your child to a primary and secondary classes today and enjoy the dividends of modern and quality education.
Join the high-flying team and visit us today at Unit 1 to 5, I-FLIER College Road, Ogungbade, Ibadan. For further inquiry, call 0815-815-8707
or 0805-331-6634. I-FLIER International School.
Nurturing I-FLIERs.
Thank you very much for staying with us. Really appreciate you. So let's come to this story is also Tambuwa's arrest exposes contradictions in anti-graft war, Peter Obi says, and I think that was what you mentioned earlier while you were reacting to that. Now let's come to EFCC's reactions. EFCC hits back at ADC others over unprovoked attack. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission yesterday reiterated its commitment to a reinvigorated anti-graft without sparing any sacred cow. The chairman, Ola Olukoyede, explained that the agency runs a non-party course whether suspects belong to the ruling or Progressive Congress or the opposition. Okay, and the EFCC boss said the investigation and trial of suspects are not time-bound. That was what you mentioned earlier. It was in reaction to the criticisms by the chieftains of the ADC against the interrogation of former Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwa over alleged suspicious withdrawal of 189 billion naira from the state government account when he was in office. And this goes on and on. EFCC hits back at ATC, others over unprovoked attack. And there's another story I want to quickly add to it because of our time. Still EFCC, how corrupt public officers use conduct bureau. Many public officers...
Mr. Likoyede is acting within his capacity. It's very, very limited. Because the moment you get a master, you've got to listen and, do according to the bidding of your master. And that is what he's doing. So, when it's time to move, he moves. When it's time to halt the movement, then he halts it. So otherwise, he'll be out of office. Look at what happened to Bayo Julari. Bayo Julari was speaking professionally. I said, okay, look, those refineries, they can never work. So, maybe we should just, sell them off or privatize them or whatever, by the way of concession. But see what happened to him. The next day, he said, did you discuss that with us? Was that part of our discussion? So, the man was nearly thrown out. So, and it was rumored that, of course, he has to sign his resignation letter undated. So, should you do that again, then you are off. So, so that's the kind of thing we are having in the economy. So, most of them, they just feel what they are here to acquire. Now, as a barrister, what do you think should be done? I think he will need to approach the National Assembly. They will need to do something by the way of, amending our laws.
Is that not supposed to be a crime? Is that not supposed to be a crime?
That is a crime. That is what I'm trying to... Already you have sufficient... of course, it means that CCB just, Code of Conduct Bureau, they just collect those documents and put somewhere. They don't actually investigate. Most of those things they claim to have possessed. Or, so once you have those things, I felt it twice. When I was entering office, I felt it. When I was leaving office, I felt it. So now, how will you describe that? So I think Olikoyede will need to be up and doing. Rather than, being an audio EFCC chairman, I think you need to go ahead and act. Use the legal instrument against, the people he perceived to have perpetrated such. And not only that, if the law needs to be strengthened, I think he needs to go back to the National Assembly. I'll discuss with his master. So at best. So, something needs to be done. Because, but of course, like I said, should he go beyond the kind of speed they want him to maintain, I think he was going to be out of office. And that's why I can say boldly that his hands are tied. So he can only act within the band of instructions from somewhere. So that is the case. So I think if he use Code of Conduct Bureau judiciously, I think we will curb official graft in the land. And of course, how will you describe it when somebody never worked as a private person in life? You never work as a private person in life, and you acquire so much after leaving office. So the extent that you are now exhibiting your wealth in the public space on social media, and nobody has question. Why? Because you are in government. So a whole lot of things are happening in the country today. So how do we explain that? So EFCC, well, of course, I don't know.
All right, let's just come to these particular stories, and then we would go on another break and open the phone lines for our listeners to join the conversation. Health sector crisis persists despite 5.4 trillion naira World Bank loan. The World Bank approved a total of $3.53 billion, which is 5.4 trillion naira, at the official exchange rate of 1,535 naira to a dollar in health-related loans to Nigeria over the past 9 years, the Punch report. However, the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, the Nigerian Association of National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, as well as health officials in states, argued that despite the substantial funds committed to the healthcare infrastructure in Nigeria and the loans from the World Bank, the results are not visible. According to the industry operators, the country still has a poor state of health infrastructure that does not reflect the huge amount of loans that have been collected from the global financial firm. A review of publicly available data on the World Bank's official project portal revealed that between 2016 and 2025, at least 11 major health sector projects secured funding, totaling $3.527 billion in loans and an additional $111.29 million in grants. This brings the total World Bank financial commitment for health-focused interventions in Nigeria to approximately $3.64 billion during the period under review. Okay. The funding, which cut across multiple health initiatives, was primarily channeled through federal institutions such as the Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and the Federal Ministry of Finance. And this goes on and on. But then, operators in the medical space as well as health officials in state argued that despite the substantial funds committed to health infrastructure in Nigeria,
instrument to work with, they have the drugs, they have everything they ought to have. That is when you get hospital. Otherwise, that hospital remains just a mere building, because of course building is multi-purpose. You can choose to use for a living, or for hospital, or for something else. So a building is a building. So hospital building does not suggest that you get hospitals. So in most cases, they build as a virtual level. All you need to do is just to ask the established university to have their campuses spread around. And of course, but of course, politically, why? Because I am close to the presidency or whatever. So, how about university in my village? And of course, they will look at me and say, okay, is that what you want? Yeah, we know that you have electoral value, so you can get one. So that's the kind of thing we do in the country. So, second, the reason why you are not likely to see results in the health sector is because of the personnel that are attached. So multiple hospitals, they keep, find them. So in fact, there's another, they've just gifted us a medical center in Okeogun recently. I hope you understand. Establish such hospitals that are not staffed. What happens to it? You need to get personnel. So meaning that the bulk of such money will be going into personnel issue. So there's something to share somewhere. So all still nowhere. So a lot of things. So which calls to question the way and manner we actually manage the resources of this country. So, and funny enough, the bulk of this money we are talking about happen to be loans. And of course, I keep asking myself, if somebody said that I am performing, or let's take for instance a man at home say, oh, I'm a big man, yes, I have arrived, but you see, if you check his bank account, their bank account is either on, all his spending is either on loan or overdraft, not from not from profits from his businesses. Of course, is that person actually a rich man? No, it's not. So that's the case of the government we are having across board at all tiers of government in this country today. They claim to be performing. They claim to be growing the economy. Meanwhile, they are growing the economy at human cost. One, on low.
No land grabbing, no nile wahala. Our land sales come with CFO, red copy survey, and other valid documents. Grab this special offer. Now selling Comfort Estate near Circle, 500,000 naira discount on any land or property you buy at Comfort Estate of Real Estate is our mandate.